So everybody, thank you so much for coming. I'm happy that so many has chosen to come to this very important event. Side event on the constitutional reform in Azerbaijan, where we raise the, I think, most relevant question that is this a step back to the past? We have some very good speakers, but allow me first to give my impression of the situation in Azerbaijan and also the discussion in the Council of Europe concerning Azerbaijan. It's very clear to me that the situation in Azerbaijan is clearly bad. And allow me also to remind you that when Mr. Aliyev actually visited the Council of Europe and the Parliamentary Assembly, he made a promise to the Parliamentary Assembly, to PACE. He said that he would engage in dialogue with the civil society of Azerbaijan. This promise he has not lived up to. What we have seen since then has been severe crackdowns on the opposition, on the media, on the freedom of expression. This is not living up to the promise made to PACE. Right now, there is a growing, and that's very rightly, a growing critique from the Council of Europe towards the situation in Azerbaijan. We have seen that the Committee of Ministers has taken a new and very serious step by underlining the obligation of Azerbaijan to follow the judgment of the European Court in regards to the case of Mr. Mammadov. This is according to Article 46.1. And we have also seen that Secretary General Jagland has gone so far for the first time in his period to set down an inquiry into the lack of implementations of the rulings of the court according to Article 52 in the European Convention on Human Rights. These are serious steps, these are important steps, and they are very needed steps that honestly should have been taken much earlier, if you ask me. So far, the PACE have been lagging behind. I must say that I'm personally very ashamed about some of the statements made by the members of this assembly that went on the assessment mission to the recent constitutional referendum in Azerbaijan. Some of the members behaved as if they were an election observation, but they were not an election observation. I think it is a shame when there is a misuse of the good name of the PACE, and I think this really underlines the need for the PACE in general to step up concerning Azerbaijan, and I think it's extremely important that it has consequences when Mr. Aliyev chooses to violate his obligations to the Council of Europe and to abandon the promises that he delivers to us. That's my point of view. I will now give the floor to my colleague from Ukraine, Nadiya SAVCHENKO. So please welcome Nadiya.
Thank you. Европейская платформа диалога есть одной из самых больших и самых действенных платформ для диалога.
European platform for dialogue is one of the most important and workable platforms for dialogue.
Но один минус этой платформы заключается в том, что в ней имеют право быть представлены только легитимные позиции, только позиция легитимных властей.
There is only one disadvantage of this platform is that there are only positions of legitimate governments could be presented.
Поэтому очень важно, что есть возможность проводить такие ивенты, где можно услышать гражданскую позицию народов стран, которые входят в Европлатформу.
That is why events of this kind are very important, because during these events we have the chance to listen to the representatives of civil society from those countries, not only the governments.
И очень часто можно наблюдать, что позиция народов и властей их стран во многом расходятся.
And very often we see that positions of civil society and nations vis-à-vis positions of their government are different.
У нас в Украине мы с этим боремся внутри страны.
In Ukraine we are fighting against that inside the country
Уже много лет.
for many years.
Но одним из рычагов действия может быть также для того, чтобы народ и власти нашли общий язык в гармонии и с европейскими ценностями, может быть платформа Parliamentary Евросоюза.
So the PACE and the European Union could be a platform for harmonization of efforts by civil society and governments in the countries.
Вопрос только состоит в том, готова ли Европлатформа действительно не только говорить, но и действовать для того, чтобы приводить состояние стран, их власти и народов в гармонию.
So the question is whether mechanisms such as the European platform are ready. So it's not only words, but also deals to make sure that this kind of harmonization works.
Все страны очень разные, со своей ментальной культурой.
These countries are different in terms of culture and values.
И задача европарламентариев, которые находятся здесь, как раз-таки искать эту золотую середину.
And I think that the assignment for members of this assembly is just to find this common thread to bring them together and to make a dialogue.
Для этого политикам очень важно слышать голос народов, людей и гражданских организаций.
From this perspective, for politicians, it's very important to hear voices of people, civil society, and activists.
Сегодня мы услышим такие голоса, и я надеюсь, что это будет услышано всей Европлатформой, и мы сделаем с этого выводы.
Today we will hear those voices, and I hope that these voices will be heard also by other members of the PACE, and we will act accordingly.
Выводы, чтобы
and we will make necessary conclusions out of that.
Чтобы после заседания Европлатформы было меньше слов и больше действий.
And we will make sure that there are more deals rather than just words afterwards.
Спасибо, я рада буду слушать.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nadiya. It's so good to have you here, free of prison, and that underlines that there should be no political prisoners. I will now give the floor to Gulnara AKHUNDOVA from International Media Support. Please, Gulnara.
Thank you very much, Nikolaj. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here again and to speak about the problems. Unfortunately, it was very difficult to make sure that other members of Azerbaijani civil society will come and participate because they fear reprisals and intimidation for them being here and speak out. I must say that several of them have had to cancel their trip because they were seriously fearing repressions for them being here. So my colleagues will talk about the recently conducted referendum, which we all believe was a big, serious throwback to the Soviet time. But my short intervention will be about overall situation with freedom of expression, assembly and association in Azerbaijan. And as I said, that civil society in Azerbaijan, independent civil society in Azerbaijan is completely silenced. They are deprived from political life, from public participation. They are not invited to important events, including to those organized by Council of Europe office in Baku, unfortunately. There is an initiative called Dialogue between Civil Society and government in Azerbaijan, and this initiative is implemented by the Council of Europe office in Azerbaijan. But unfortunately, independent voices, such as, for example, recently released investigative journalist Hatice Ismailova and other civil society activists, they are not allowed to participate in that initiative. The legislation is very restrictive for the NGOs to operate. NGOs are banned from receiving foreign funding. And since the Venice Commission issued opinion in 2014 condemning the NGO legislation in Azerbaijan, there have been dozens of new amendments to that already bad legislation, which will further restrict activity of civil society in Azerbaijan. Media is increasingly under attack in Azerbaijan. I would say that the only independent media which reports on Azerbaijan and which has Azerbaijani reporters is based outside of Azerbaijan in Berlin, and that is the Meydan TV. This is just one example, or there's another independent media based in Strasbourg here. So media is forced into exile, so are human rights defenders and NGOs. And I will not speak that much here, but I just want to highlight again, and Nikolaj said that the steps have been taken by Secretary General Jagland, and the steps have been taken by the Committee of Ministers, and we are very grateful for those steps. But we really hope and we expect that further actions and support will be provided by a Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe.
Thank you so much, Gulnara. I will now pass the floor to Leyla ALIYEVA. Welcome. And so you represent the Center of National and International Studies.
Thank you so much. First of all, I wanted to thank the conveners of this panel, Nikolaj, VILLUMSEN, Tini Cox, and Nadiya SAVCHENKO, and also our colleagues from the international organization, Emin, HUSEYNOV, and Gulnara, AKHUNDOVA. I think it's a great opportunity to speak. I'll just start with the statement that Azerbaijan is a fascinating country, the people of which have proved few times during the last 2 centuries their democratization potential. And in this regard, against this background, which was actually confirmed by many prominent people from the West who were coming to Azerbaijan and saying how European is the society there, including the German Greens, which were organizing 20 years ago the meeting in Strasbourg, and where Azerbaijani Greens were asked to speak on behalf of the East European Greens at this meeting. So there was a lot of acknowledgement of democratization potential and European nature of Azerbaijani society. So that brings us to the very contradictory developments in Azerbaijan, first of all, which epitomized in the adoption of these constitutional amendments as a result of referendum. I think more about legal aspects of this referendum will be told by my colleagues who speak after me, but I will speak about the political essence of this event. First of all, it contradicts the norms. I will speak about 2 or 3 moments related to this. First of all, it contradicts the norms and values of the Council of Europe, because this referendum and these constitutional amendments, they don't lead to greater people's power, but rather they reduce, significantly limit people's power. They lead, this is another step towards greater centralization of power, instead of decentralization, instead of giving greater power from the center to the periphery. It's going in totally opposite direction. Second, it contradicts the even historical development of Azerbaijanis themselves, because they've been through a very difficult and very deep transformation of the country's society, people for 200 years. So these sort of arrangements was basically consolidate the Power One family is a great departure to many centuries ago. It's not even something which take you before the Soviet Union, because before the Soviet Union, 100 years ago, we had much more democratic and republican sort of state with a very liberal legislation. So, and the third thing, however, it doesn't contradict the regional trends which are taking place. I think Posner said a very important thing. He said, we see how day by one after another, the constitutions in our post-Soviet space are turned into the code of medieval slavery. And that's what we are observing. It's a trend, and the other thing it doesn't contradict, unfortunately, the rise of illiberalism in both Western and Eastern part of the world. And I think this might be the major concern for all of us, and should attract our common consolidated efforts to address this issue. And I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leyla. Now we go to Mr. Erkin. GADIRLI.
Yes, that's me.
Sorry. Welcome. And you're a board member of the Real movement?
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm a board member of the political movement called Real. That's a shortcut for Republican Alternative. Our chairman, Gulnara, has been in jail since February 4, 2013, and still there, despite the fact that the European Court of Human Rights delivered judgment in his case, and the Committee of Ministers adopted several interim resolutions, each time requiring his immediate and unconditional release. But here I will talk in my personal capacity as a lawyer, focusing on the legal aspects of the referendum and its outcomes. First, I would say that the referendum itself was conducted in not a legitimate way. So we lawyers tend to differentiate legitimacy from legality. Legality, of course, is a precondition for legitimacy. It's a necessary but not sufficient condition of legitimacy. So the very fact that something is legal doesn't mean that it's legitimate. Because legality is a formal procedure. Now, legitimacy of the referendum was very dubious because it came out of nowhere as a surprise in the middle of the summer. No one expected it coming. There was no discussion, no consultation, no even information about the intent to hold the referendum. Even the high-ranking governmental officials and MPs were called unprepared. There was not even a room that the constitution was going to be changed. Then the draft amendments were sent to the Constitutional Court. That's the legal requirement, that before they put on the vote, the Constitutional Court should give an opinion, a positive opinion. As the Constitutional Court rejects the draft, they cannot put on vote. The Constitutional Court quite quickly gave its opinion, a positive opinion, and the justification for that opinion was very good. Lack of any meaningful explanation. In terms of explanation, one of the most important things which has severely damaged the legitimacy of the referendum was that the very initiator of the referendum, the president himself, never gave any explanation. Why he, for example, wants 7 years of term instead of 5. Why he wants the power to dissolve or dismiss the parliament. He didn't say anything during that period. So that fact is quite telling. It's quite indicative because there was no discussion, no debate, no negotiation, and the way the referendum was conducted was also not legitimate because no alternative views were allowed to be heard. No opposition group was allowed to get registered as an official campaign group, and even the government didn't use the airtime to campaign or to explain why they wanted the referendum. Also, the very way the bulletins were arranged, were quite difficult for ordinary citizens to make a choice. I'm a lawyer, I know what I was voting for, but when I saw the bulletin, which was this long and this wide, with a very rigid wordings, like the word, this word should be replaced by that word in that article, which tells nothing to the ordinary citizens. So the people, those who came to vote, they vote in very uninformed way. So that's also a very telling, indicative factor, which severely damage the potential legitimacy of the referendum. Now, as for amendments themselves, of course, there are several of them. Some of them are pretty normal, but very few. Most of those amendments that put in additional risks and threatens the democratic development of our country, of course, concerns the political system. I already mentioned a few of them. One is that the president from now will have a power to appoint as many vice presidents as he would need or perhaps even wish. The new text of the Constitution does not even put any limit to the number of vice presidents. Also, there is no sign of what would be their responsibilities. So it would be entirely up to the president to decide how many vice presidents he would want and what they will be responsible for. Instead of that, the Constitution provides for full immunity for all the vice presidents, immunity from criminal charges and different other sorts of legal procedures. So why was that? I mean, again, even to oppose something, you need to know a rationale for that. The difficulty of the Constitution, the irony, even the cynicism, is that you don't even know what you're actually opposing, because there was no explanation on the other side. The government kept silent all the time. One could even only guess, right? Now, the parliament, which has always been weak in a way when the elections were rigged in most of the cases, now the president will have the power to dissolve the parliament. Again, no one knows why. I mean, at least we cannot refer to any official statement or explanation why they want them to have that power. Because logically, this weak parliament is not no threat to the president anyway. Now, in terms of institutional memory, I should take that into account. Having vice presidents, we have a very bad, in our geography, post-Soviet geography, I would say, a very bad experience of having vice presidents. It was first introduced by Gorbachev in the late years of the Soviet Union. Then the Soviet Union had a vice president, and it ended up with a coup d'etat. The GADIRLI, the famous, was headed by the vice president of the Soviet Union. Because why? Because he didn't have any responsibility. He had an immunity, he had a salary, he had enjoyed a status, but the law didn't provide for his responsibilities. In the United States, you at least know what is the permanent job of vice president. He's the head of the Senate. So he has an official position and official responsibilities. Then Russia, the independent Russia, they had a vice president for the first term of the Yeltsin, and it ended up with a coup d'etat again. The Rutskoy, the vice president of Russia, he tried to overthrow Yeltsin. So when you have a vice president with no legally provided responsibilities but full immunity, it's quite risky for the country, and even for the ruling elite, I should say. So again, you can only guess what will come out of that and why they really needed that. Rumors say that maybe some family members could be promoted to that post. I don't know. I wouldn't take that for granted. Not necessarily could happen, but again, anything can happen. That's the problem. Now, we have a system where the cabinet of ministers is not responsible to the parliament officially. That's the text. All ministers are appointed solely by the president with no prior consultation with the parliament. Only prime minister is officially required to be negotiated. Okay, I'm running out of time. That's all lawyers like to speak about. Should I stop here, perhaps? Will there be questions? Okay. Just for you to know, we have a very strange arrangement in the political system. We have a strong president, which is not just the head of state, but also head of executive power. Then we have a cabinet of ministers with a prime minister, not responsible to the parliament. So you could guess that this is a very strange one. You either have a presidential system with no prime minister, or a president as a head of state, but which is not a political actor, and then the cabinet of ministers, council of ministers, depending on which country we are talking about, headed by the Prime Minister, fully responsible to the Parliament and actually coming out of the Parliament. Now we have none of them. So in terms of separation of powers and balance within the system, this referendum had created additional risks. And again, I must say that I'm very worried about which direction this country will go. But to stop here, I have a lot of things to say, but the time should respect me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There is many important things to say, but time is short, and we will take the last speaker, Emin HUSEYNOV, representing the Institute for Reporters, Freedom and Safety. Please.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, dear friends, in 26 September in Azerbaijan we have third referendum since we are a member of Council of Europe. We are a member of Council of Europe family since from 2001. First referendum happened in 2002, constitutional referendum. Another one in 2009 and third one now in 2016. All these three referendums happened because current and ruling regime adopt our constitution according to the will from single ruling family. What's happened in Azerbaijan? From 93 until 2003, we have ruling period from Heydar Aliyev, father of current president Ilham Aliyev. Heydar Aliyev is former Soviet KGB general and first secretary from Soviet Azerbaijan from 1969 until 1982. And this person come back again to political power in 93. He stayed until his death on the ruling floor in 2003, and in 2003 ruling floor, his son replaced him on this ruling floor in 2003. And the second time, when Aliyev elected Ilham Aliyev in 2008 on presidential floor, he changed constitution again. In 2002, constitution changed by his father, Heydar Aliyev, and adopted from his son's interest, Ilham Aliyev. It's like he replaced him first on prime minister position, successfully organized election in 2003, and since 2003 Aliyev president, and in 2009, after his second presidential term, Mr. Aliyev changed constitution and cut from our constitution 2 terms presidential limit from one person. And I think we are one of the first member of Council of Europe family which is change constitution and cut this limit for one person. After 2009, in Azerbaijan started quite serious crackdown against civil society, and especially after third presidential terms in 2013, when Mr. Aliyev again elected as president, he decides 3 years later to change constitution again according to the interest of his own family. And right now, in our constitution, we don't have, since from yesterday, because Central Election Commission adopted all voting results, and today we have completely new political realities, and Mr. Aliyev's son, Heydar Aliyev Jr., allowed to participate in presidential election. And same thing happened in Syria when Father Assad gives vote to his son. But in Azerbaijan, it's happening in a country of member of the Council of Europe, happening something what we see only in North Korea. But what is different between us and North Korea? We are full member of Council of Europe. We have strong obligations, not commitments, especially obligations. We have strong rule of, and Azerbaijan just shows, not Azerbaijan, the ruling regime shows he don't care about European values, he don't care about his membership. And questions for you, for dear guests, who wants same reality is his own country? Is his first country is the Council of Europe, which is have 7 years presidential terms. If before Aliyev says it's not enough for him re-elected after each 5 years, now he's changed constitution. He has the right for participate, staying on the ruling floor 7 years. He's not responsible, and he has not constitution to give this ruling floor to his son or other member from his family, because if before we have limit from 35 years, only 35 years old person able to participate in presidential campaign. Right now, if you are 18 years old and if you have higher educational studies diplomas from university, even from 20 years old person able to stay on the presidential position. But just I want to give example. If you want to apply for driving license from bus or tram in Azerbaijan, you must have first 5 years experience on the normal car. Without experience, nobody give you chance to drive and make the responsibility from 30 passengers in your bus. But if you are 20 years old, you are able to stay on the presidential position. And that's what happened in Israel. I want to stop my intervention, and we are ready for response to any questions.
Thank you to all speakers, and now we have small 10 minutes left, perhaps less than 10 actually, because we also need to be in the committee meeting soon. So please do not hesitate not to answer questions. Come forward with them, and if you answer questions, please say who you are referring the questions to, so it's quite clear, because we cannot have all answering. So please. I'm impressed by all the clever people here in the panel, and there's nothing to add. Of course, you should have the sports. There is a question, please.
My name is Erkin.
Microphone, please.
Microphone. Okay. Can anyone hear me? Okay. Yeah. My name is Agatha Mazur. I'm a German journalist, and I just want to ask, some of you said that the constitutional referendum came very sudden. So how long in front of the constitutional referendum has civil society been informed that things will happen, that the referendum will take place? Maybe the lawyer, Mr. GADIRLI, can answer.
We have learned about that from the news, from the official newspapers. I think it was 18th of July or something.
18th of July.
I'm not sure about the exact date, but it was July or something. And then in September 26th, we had the referendum. So less than 3 months, 2 months almost. And the whole process, I mean, the constitutional Post decision, opinion rather, and then the registration of groups, collection of signatures, and then campaigns, which didn't actually occur. So we learned about that on the very day that it was released in the news. And that's why I'm saying that it was legitimate, because there was no prior consultation or any discussion in the society or even in the parliament where the place it should be at. So everyone was caught unprepared. As I told you, I mean, even the governmental officials, many of them didn't know about the referendum idea that was coming up. So that's why it was quite surprising.
And Emin, you want to add?
Yeah, I have additional remarks about legitimacy of this referendum. Azerbaijan government uses some international stakeholders from legitimacy, and even if PACE didn't send any observation mission to Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan president says, PACE sent observation mission, and 8 MPs which has come to Baku just day before referendum without any long-term assessment, just for short visit for voting day from 26th September. These 8 persons, and especially head of this group, give very interesting statement. He says, PACE member Alexander Nikolaj from EPP, representative from former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, head of delegation. He says, this is amazing step for democracy, which is, according for Azerbaijan civil society and Azerbaijan, this is shameful for PACE to say it like this. And another people, which has come, 7 persons, also which is accompanied of this MPs, Andrea Rigoni from ALDE, Yanaki Stoiler from Bulgaria, Dominik Taczynski from Poland, Antonio Gutierrez from Spain, Stefan Schener from Austria, and Cesar Florin Preda from Romania. These persons, like 8 persons, come from half a day, and even only 1 person, Stefan Schener from Austria, Austrian MPs, find some critical details and electoral violations. Even he makes this note to this mission assistant document. Head of the mission says for everything perfect. And now we have lots of questions to these people. How is it possible for, even if PACE didn't give mandate, even Venice Commission strongly criticized this referendum and says so, this is completely against Council of Europe values, this referendum. These 8 gentlemen say, one of the representatives from this group says for, it's good, it's new step to democracy, and even OEC ODIHR didn't send long-term observation mission. Nobody come from serious international stakeholder from electoral observation mission to Azerbaijan, and PACE just give mandate from assessment missions. I don't know how does this gentleman, Mr. Nikolsky, says for everything perfect. Even he didn't meet with any civil society also in Azerbaijan. Just come, how is it possible to give review about referendum or this electoral process if you come just for half a day? That's it.
Thank you. Now time is really short. So if there is one more question, please come forward. Did you get an answer to your question? Yeah. Good. Then I think I would say thank you to all the speakers who were here. I think it raises the whole process of this election and the problem that the ODIHR could not be there, that there could not be long-term observer. I think that is a relevant question that we should continue to discuss, because as an assembly, if there is not the possibility to investigate and look into an election in a proper way, that's totally unacceptable in a situation where a member of this assembly holds a referendum as it took place in Azerbaijan. So I think that's something important to continue to discuss, so it will not happen again. But I would say thank you to all of you who took your time to come here and to the panel. And hopefully this can be a step forward in highlighting the severe human rights violations taking place in Azerbaijan. Thank you. And Nadiya, of course.
Я просто хотела сказать, что мы наблюдаем много примеров уродования демократии. В Азербайджане происходит сейчас как раз одна из них.
I would say that now we can witness several types of when democracy is mocked, and Azerbaijan is one of those examples.
И действительно, коллега была права, что до вступления в Советский Союз многие страны, которые сейчас есть постсоветскими, были очень демократическими странами, Азербайджан и Украина в том числе.
And my colleague was perfectly right when she said that Azerbaijan used to be a democracy before it became part of Soviet Union. And it's not only about Azerbaijan, it's about other post-Soviet states, including Ukraine.
Все, что попало потом под Российскую империю, в дальнейшем Советский Союз и сейчас под влиянием России находится, все действительно, во всем страдает демократия.
And democracy is suffering. So everything what was under the Soviet Empire, Russian Empire, and now which is under Russia's control, is suffering from the lack of democracy.
Европа не имеет права этого не замечать, и я надеюсь, что мои коллеги это услышат, и будет больше действий.
And Europe has no right to turn a blind eye to this, and I hope that there will be more actions from my colleagues.
Потому что просто слов уже давно мало.
Because it's not enough just to say words.
Thank you, Nadiya. Thank you, Nadiya. That will be the last words, and then it's time for action. So, thank you.